we're about to re-release the first 2 seasons on Tubi, remastered and re-edited. So everybody knows, like, season 1, when I did Money and Violence, that was the first time I ever stepped foot behind a camera. Like, I literally didn't even know what color grading was till the 12th episode. You know what I mean? Everybody thought I had got a new camera, but it was just, I'm like, yo, this color grading thing, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Same camera.
Yeah, same camera, you know. But we re-released in season 1 and 2 on Tubi, remastered, re-edited also. Even season 1, because season 1, the episodes were like 20 minutes, 18 minutes, 22 minutes each. Each episode is going to be an hour long.
Nice.
So the first season is 11 episodes, and the second season is still, 12-hour long episodes. And, it's been 6 or 7 years, man, since people have been really able to access the show on any platform that wasn't behind a paywall.
Right.
So now putting it back out there for the people, it's a whole generation that I feel missed out on it.
Right.
And I think that Money and Violence is such a big part of the culture. Like that show was special. And it's not just because I created and wrote it. It's just because, my whole goal for the show was literally to have a vehicle the same way that I had OGs on my block kicking nuggets of wisdom to us when we was growing up. The show was basically that vehicle to allow me to speak to the younger generation in their language, because I felt it was something that was necessary at the time. And I think that things have gotten even worse, man. So I think the streets need this.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, what inspired this whole thing? This is a gag question. Look, you see it, right?
I ain't say nothing.
Your man, what inspired? That's his favorite shit. That's his favorite shit.
You though.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But how did the show even come to be? Because at this time, there was nothing like it. There was nothing on the net that was like that. We had The Wire, but of course, this is a show that had a whole production team behind it.
Yeah.
What made you say, let's pick up a camera and shoot our own shit and just put it out to the world?
All right, so, let's start with the title, right? Money and Violence. It's something that I had been saying for years, right? Art imitates life. And it's something I have been saying for years to my right-hand man. I always used to say the only 2 things in this world that people respect is money and violence, And it's because if you want somebody's attention, either you're going to show them the bread, right? Or you're going to hit them over the head. But at the same time, I also think that money and violence totally describes the entire mindset of capitalism. I could have did a show about the insurance industry and called it Money and Violence. I could have did a show about the hospital industry and called it Money and Violence. The inspiration for the show was actually inspired by my life itself, because before Money and Violence at the time, like, my life was just so crazy that every time certain things would happen, I tell my man, like, yo, if we could do a reality show about our life, like this, like, people would be glued to the TV, and he'd be like, yeah, and we'd go to jail. And after years of that, like, I just came up with the idea, like, but what if I scripted it? You know what I mean? And I just got my peoples together. One day I woke up and I literally was laying in my bed in the morning, like I usually do, just thinking about, okay, what's the next thing? Like, what's to come? What is it that I haven't done before that I'd like to do? And the idea came up that I never created a film. So originally, Money and Violence was supposed to be a feature, So I came to my people and I'm like, yo, I want to do a movie. And they're like, you want to do a movie? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, all right, so write a couple of scenes and let's see what it do. So I wrote a couple of scenes. I bought a camera, bought a mic. We went out one day, shot it. I took the footage back to the crib. I had YouTube on my desktop while I had the editing software on my laptop, because I learned how to edit off of YouTube.
Right.
And when I edited the first scene, like, what blew my mind was exactly what I saw in my head was what I saw on the screen. Like, it looked like a real scene. So I'm like, oh my God, like, this could really happen, Right. And from there, one scene became 2, on and on and on, till that became an episode, until we had 25 episodes for the first season. And the next thing you know, we getting approached by Sony, we getting approached by Endemol, we getting approached by Lionsgate.
Right.
But the inspiration for the show, in all honesty, was just, I was tired of the world thinking that the people in our neighborhoods do crimes out of enjoyment. I was tired of that. Like, I wanted people to be able to get a chance to go home with the same dudes that they cross the street to avoid, to understand that they go home and hug and kiss their kids, just like you. Like, these niggas ain't animals. You know what I mean? They do what they do out of lack of resources. And if they had the opportunity to do anything else, bro, they would.
Right.
So you handpicked your whole cast? No casting call?
Oh, y'all niggas from Flatbush?
Nah.
Oh, all right.
Yo, why you said it like that?
Niggas say, oh, hell no.
My cast was literally just people that were around me, you know.
Friends of friends.
He was around me. He came through a high school friend of a dude that was close to me. He was somebody, we just used to follow each other on Instagram.
Right.
And when I thought of this scammer character, yo, I was like, this dude is the perfect fit. You understand what I'm saying? And I reached out to him and I'm like, yo, bro, let's make this happen. I'm doing this show. And what's up? I'm gonna give you an opportunity.
Bro, what are you doing?
Not here. Don't say that on here, man. You don't get a bunch of slack about this shit. So, all right. So you got the cast together. How authentic are the stories? And I'm not trying to get nobody in trouble. I know y'all like, that's a Vlad question. But I know it's based on a lifestyle that you know, some people around you may have been living or added to the stories. Or
I mean, I'll tell you this. Way after Money and Violence led to me actually writing for television, right? Mm-hmm. I've written on Godfather Harlem. I've written on American Gods, amongst other shows. And what I've come to learn is no story in television is, even a true story is not a true story. And the reason being is because as much as we think our lives are exciting, when you put it down on paper in a script, it's not that exciting. You know what I mean? So you got to tweak it for entertainment purposes. Yes. And it's the same thing with Money and Violence. Like, Money and Violence has pulled a lot from my life. It's pulled a lot from the lives of the people that were around me. But in the same breath, a lot of it is also tweaked for entertainment purposes to give you the best episode possible, because every story, in order to keep your audience entertained, there's a structure.
Right.
You know, that has to be put in play, and our lives doesn't play out in a structure. So you got to tweak it. You know what I mean? You got to have turning points. You got to have climaxes. So although it's inspired by true events, it isn't all true.
It's hot for trapper turn smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rappers. Got bars, I can hang with the backpackers. Trap star, I don't hang with the backpackers. I'm in the hood with the work, you heard. Making fiends leave earth, you heard. Got your baby mama thirst, you heard. Feel the flow, nigga, throw it in reverse. This the wave you need to surf, you heard.